The sun has set on the Seventh Doctor last day. Now, this release was teased right back when the relaunch was beginning at Big Finish in May 2021. We've had to wait until December 2023 to hear some of this. And now in June 2024, we have said goodbye to this last day. And my goodness, this is 12 parts, maybe not even 12 parts, because there is so much for this release. Especially Dark Universe, that's the one you probably need to listen to.
It's very much a sequel to that, isn't it? It's almost like a 16-parter when you have those 4 parts there.
And then your little history of the Black and White TARDIS arc, and then Quantum Possibility Engine, and then, let's throw in a bit of Transcendence of Ephros in there as well.
Starlight Robbery too, why not?
This release is just a cluster of just messiness.
Pains us to say.
It does, because it was something I was really excited about. When you hear Seventh Doctor Last Day, you think, is this going to be the Seventh Doctor's equivalent of the Sixth Doctor Last Adventure? You think, this will be great for, this feels like a release that people who aren't into Big Finish to jump on and go, I'm a Seventh Doctor fan, I'll check this out. This feels very for the Big Finish fan, but even then, for us who we love Big Finish, we adore it, this kind of makes you feel a little bit alienated with it just by how dense it can be at times.
I mean, it's funny, you have this reveal of a villain who's is a returning villain, and the reaction when he announces himself is a what from the characters.
Yes.
And so I was sort of like on the side of them being like, I don't remember this guy. That must just be part of the joke. It must be that he is a new villain, but no, apparently it is a returning one. You broke the news to me and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then, he's also like a cyborg or cybernetic. I can't remember quite what Hob is. But you don't really get that backstory here.
It's very much, you need to have listened to it to go, right, it's that character.
Yeah.
Which
and I mean,
we haven't got time for.
Yeah. It still somewhat works, but you do sort of feel a bit left out of a loop for a couple of minutes before you catch them and go, okay, so that's what's been going on the past 5 minutes.
Yes. I think the last day, it has its moments of where you're really invested in it, and then it has moments where you're just completely not in it. And considering this is the Seventh Doctor's last day, he's not really doing an awful lot within it. It's very much about the
friends he's made along the way.
It literally is that. If you have, it's very indulgent in the Big Finish lore of Hex and all that, because I think Hex is very much the center character for it in a way.
I'd say Ace is, but Hex is in a way the heart of it.
Yes.
Which I mean, he often was for his stories anyway. And so that makes sense here. But nevertheless, I think when you look at The Last Adventure, you do have something a bit different there in that with the Sixth Doctor, there was a more wide open canvas. All you had was, him lying there on the floor. You didn't know what the build up to that regeneration was necessarily. There was wiggle room there that Big Finish were able to spin this rather incredible story with. With the Seventh Doctor, you already know what's going on there with the TV movie. Like, you have a good 5 to 10 minutes of McCoy. He gets shot, and then that's, why he's regenerating there. So it's not a regeneration story in this sense. It's more the lead up to the regeneration story, really. So it is a different beast in that respect. Also, structure-wise, it's a 12-parter rather than 4 stories set across the Doctor's era, like The Last Adventure was, with the final story being a 1-hour regeneration story called The Brink of Death. In this, it's The Last Day parts 1 to 12, spread across 2 6-episode releases And with that, each episode is often, it's not quite an anthology, but they're following
Part
different
one feels
strands,
like
aren't
that.
they?
Part one feels like it's setting up the characters on the board ready to play the game.
Yeah, you'll have an episode with Ace teaming up with these different villains that she's recruiting for some mission. You'll have an episode where Benny and
Mel
are off on an archaeological dig. You've got these different disparate strands all going on, which then start to come together across part 2. And I do quite like as things come together, as characters combine, as these different elements of the Seventh Doctor's expanded media, like Chris and Roz meeting, Hex and stuff. All that is rather exciting while it's happening. But then after that, it sort of falls flat on its face again. And I think that happens quite a few times throughout the story. It's like, oh, it's piquing my interest. It's getting up. Oh, we're back to rather meh. And it does end extremely messily.
It feels quite underwhelming, the ending.
I feel like I've heard it before as well.
Yeah.
What about?
It feels a little bit, I don't want to say generic, with where it goes with it.
Yeah, it does. For a 12-part as well, it feels oddly quick.
Because I think the core idea of the Seventh Doctor sort of trying to control a universe, the old, the master chess player, but it doesn't quite land as well as it should.
No, it really doesn't. And perhaps that's because there is less focus on the Seventh Doctor throughout this. Yeah, I mean, in terms of highlights, Kane coming back here,
yes,
is a surprising one. That almost feels like the randomest choice you could have, but then actually it makes perfect sense, particularly for Ace, because this is sort of a celebration of her character as well. She's very much intrinsically linked with the Seventh Doctor. And so having her meet up with the first villain she ever faced, really, and having them being on a more equal footing in some ways, and also how he's much more morally ambiguous in this story. He can call Ace out on things without doing it from the moral high ground like Hex would do. There's that element of, oh, you're just as bad as me, which I think, Edward Peel's performance as well is rather incredible. I was really taken by Kane in this, which, really did shock me as someone who's not a particularly big fan of Dragonfire. I think his presence throughout this story is rather wonderful.
Yeah, he's a particular highlight for me. The sort of villain squad Ace assembles is really great. The sort of the scenes between those, between those relationships with those characters are built as they're sort of more disposable are great.
Yeah, that's probably one of the highlights. And that was one of the episodes I particularly enjoyed as well, as Ace was recruiting them all for this mission. I think them coming together there and stuff relating to the Dark Universe and the Dark Citizens, I found that quite fascinating in part 2.
Yeah, I liked that when we actually went to like the little, is it like little house, and like the image there is quite nice. Yeah, and what it does with Mother Finzi with her with her glasses and her sort of adjusting to it, I think that was really great stuff.
Yeah, everything to do with that was rather brilliant.
And I like the sort of Victoriana Matrix bits. That was fits the era very well with McCoy.
It's very much inspired by Trial of a Time Lord, isn't it?
Yeah, with the Fantasy Factory, yeah.
But ultimately, despite those few strong moments, just none of it really comes together to create a whole that I feel like revisiting anytime soon.
I mean, I think Benny and Mel sum it up.
Well, that was just awful. Awful.
Quite so.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
If you love the Seventh Doctor, then you'll probably have a good time with this. And if you're invested in the lore with it, and I think we've got an understanding of, we've got the Cliff Note version with it, but even still, I don't think that this is the story we all envisioned the Seventh Doctor's last day to be.
No, sadly so. I mean, if you are someone who has like listened to all those Seventh Doctor arcs, are really big on Hex and his journey and such, and where that all built up to, how do you feel about this? Because this is sort of like the culmination of a lot of that, really. I don't know, culmination of it. It's sort of like the third time they've wrapped it up in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I'd be interested to see if anyone really enjoyed it from that perspective, or from the exact opposite perspective. If you're coming at this having not really heard any Seventh Doctor, arc-heavy Big Finish stuff before, and you went into this, did it work for you? Were you confused at all? Feel free to share all your thoughts in the comments below. I mean, for us, what is it out of 10, Ben?
Oh, I'd say maybe a 4 or 5. This is
one
of the most
5.
This is one of the most disappointing Big Finishes I've listened to, and this pains me to say because I love Big Finish, but this really didn't land as well as I wanted it to.
No, I agree. Yeah, I'll settle with a 5, I think, because certainly as it was getting towards the end, I was just like, right, can we be done with this now? I just lost all interest in it, sadly, and I didn't want to. I wanted to find something to latch onto, but it just did not stick the landing. Had some promising moments throughout, some strong characters, some rather iffy episodes at the same time. It was a lot of back and forth. Honestly, I don't think it was worth that long journey. The time spent on it for where it went just didn't land for me.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to sum up the last day.
Thank you all for watching. We're sorry that we're so negative. We try not to be.
It's just the way these things are,
Yeah.
We like to be honest, and if something isn't right, we'll say it,
Yeah, I think this is one where you're better off saving your money.
Yeah.
Because Big Finish is expensive, and they do a lot of other great stuff. So check out some of their other releases. If you're in the mood for something Seventh Doctor, Far From Home, the release in the range just before this, is a pretty good one, featuring Harry and Naomi. There's lots of others too. We Could Be Here All Day, Grey Man of the Mountain. I mean, there's lots of great Seventh Doctor stories out there. This, sadly, was not one of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, take care of yourselves, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.